Okay, well, welcome everyone. Welcome to the 2017 Alumni Webinar Series. I'm pleased to introduce Andy Bartling, our speaker for today. Andy is a 2009 graduate of National American University. He graduated with honors with 2 bachelor's degrees in accounting and business administration with an emphasis in financial planning. He received NAU's Outstanding Achievement in Accounting in 2009. Andy has been a financial representative at Modern Woodmen of America for nearly 8 years, starting his own business shortly after graduating from college. He is the recipient of several awards from both Modern Woodmen's and the Rapid City Area of Commerce. In 2016, he was also recognized among the top 40 under 40 young professionals by Prairie Business magazine. Modern Woodmen's is member-owned, so each financial representative, like Andy, is a business owner requiring an entrepreneurial spirit to be successful. Today, Andy will present on entrepreneurialism, networking, and being involved in your community. Please join me in welcoming Andy.
Well, thank you, Tammy. I'm excited to visit with you today and share a little bit of information. And so first, I just kind of want to start off with my background. So I'm not originally from Rapid City, and when I was hired by Modern Woodmen of America, I was straight out of college. And I'm a financial advisor, and so that meant I had to build my book of business from the ground up. We aren't handed a list of clients or given anything like that. And if you're going to succeed, you have to get out there and work for it. And a big headwind for me was that my personal market just wasn't very good. I knew a bunch of broke college kids that had no wants, no need, and no budget for insurance or investments. So I knew that if I was going to succeed, I had to get out there and I needed to meet some people. So what I did was I joined some organizations, got on some boards, and got myself involved. Now I'm active fraternally here in Rapid City, as well as in Hot Springs and Hill City, South Dakota, and Shatter, Nebraska, and that's all through my work. I'm also a business partner for Character Counts. I'm a board member of the Black Hills Area Association of Insurance and Financial Advisors, the South Dakota Association of Fraternal Insurance Counselors, and the South Dakota Fraternal Alliance. I'm also active on both the state and national level with the National Association of Insurance and Financial Advisors and the American Fraternal Alliance. With the Rapid City Young Professionals Group, I'm co-chair of the membership committee, chair of the steering committee, and I sat on the chamber board for the last year. Now, I'm not saying all of this to brag. I just want everyone to know that I've had some experience with networking and getting involved, and I've had some great business success from it. I'm also a graduate of the Leader in Life Institute, which is a 6-month course on leadership, and a certified instructor for that course. So why should you network and be involved in your community, and how can it be a win-win? Well, first of all, getting involved will help you develop important business skills. By volunteering, you expose yourself to a new environment and to new challenges, which allow you to break out of your comfort zone and develop other skills away from the office. That's important because your comfort zone is your most dangerous zone. You got to get away from that. And according to a recent study, 91% of Fortune 500 human resource managers said that volunteering knowledge and expertise to a nonprofit can be an effective way to cultivate critical business and leadership skills. So it really helps you prepare yourself for the business environment. Secondly, by volunteering, you get good PR. And by PR, public relations, I don't just mean good press in your local newspaper, although that is likely as well. Volunteering will help you get noticed by your existing business partners and employer, as well as by prospective ones. They will see and respect your efforts to improve your community, and it's something that consumers have come to expect. According to a 2011 study, 40% of a company's reputation is determined by volunteering and their corporate social responsibility. The bottom line is networking and volunteering forces you to break out of your comfort zone, and it helps to cement your reputation in the minds of your community, and that all adds up to a bigger bottom line. In a recent Forbes article, it was written that more engaged employees make for more profits. Companies with highly engaged employees have 3 times the operating margin and 4 times the earnings per share of companies with low engagement. And these profits will translate whether you're a Fortune 500 company or just a single individual that's starting out and creating your own business. So how do you network, and what are some good ways to get involved? There's a ton of different types of organizations that you can get involved with. There are church groups, civic organizations, professional associations, political groups, the Chamber of Commerce, and many, many more. Civic organizations especially are looking for members. For instance, here in town in Rapid, the average age of an Elks member here locally is 80 plus years old. So they are desperate for new and younger members, and they will welcome you with arms wide open. One of the best ways to get out of your comfort zone and meet new people is to join a professional association that's outside of your profession. You know, I mentioned some of the professional associations that I'm a member of, but you can actually join professional associations that don't align with your business. For instance, you can join a local professional insurance, CPA or accounting, dentistry, chiropractic, or even human resource management group. All of these groups, they meet on a monthly basis, and it allows you to meet and network with other local professionals that you otherwise might not meet. They're all looking for members, and oftentimes they would rather do business with someone who supports their organization as opposed to someone who doesn't. It can lead to new opportunities that you likely wouldn't have been made aware of had you not joined their group. And they also are oftentimes looking for volunteers. And we've already established the benefits of volunteering and getting that good PR.
Andy, if I can interrupt for a minute, I know here at NAU we have what's called humanitarian leave, which allows employees to take time off to do charitable acts, to spend time volunteering, basically. So I'm thinking from the context, if you're a business owner, what you said really rang true, that as a business, getting out in the community and giving back and doing good things just generates goodwill, and I would imagine business. But if you're an employee, it's worth looking into, or even talking to your boss, I would think, about options to take time off to do charitable work. Yeah,
I know a lot of employers here in town, they obviously encourage their employees to get out of the office, get out of the building and go out and volunteer. And right. A lot of them, they let it count towards their time at work. And, there's a lot of groups that meet over the noon hour, after work. And right. So if you're not able to do it, during a regular 8 to 5 job, they're always looking for volunteers outside of that.
Right. And it leads, the statistics you mentioned earlier make the case for employers to allow their employees to do that. Not all will. So as you said, sometimes you've got to make that time. But it's worth talking to your employer about for the benefits you mentioned earlier to employers, happier employees, a great image out in the community, employees building new skills to make them better employees. Lots of good reasons.
Yeah. There's a whole host of benefit from it, and I think most employers do realize that.
Yeah.
So another idea that, if you don't want to join one of those types of groups, is that you can always sponsor their meetings. Like I said, a lot of them meet over the noon hour or after work and have a meal that is served. And you can do this with either professional or civics groups. Sometimes there's a set price to be a sponsor of their meeting, and other times they'll just ask you to pay for the meal. But either way, you should be provided with an opportunity to tell a little bit about yourself, build your brand, and gain some of that good PR that we've talked about. Another benefit of networking and volunteering is the opportunity to build your leadership skills. If you join an organization, before long, you'll be asked to join a committee or hold a leadership position. And according to the book Credibility, the 4 most admired attributes of a good leader that people look for are honest, forward-looking, inspiring, and competent. And the book, Credibility, is based upon a study that has spanned over 1,000 written case studies, 75,000 people surveyed across 5 continents, and over the course of more than 30 years. So they've got the research to back it up. They really know what they're talking about there. And the result of these studies have remained consistent over the course of the last 3 decades. The results were the same 30 years ago as they are today, and they've remained consistent not only time, but also around the world and across categories of age, gender, ethnicity, functional discipline, organizational level, and the like. And people are remarkably clear about this, that the qualities that leaders must demonstrate if they want other people to voluntarily enlist in a common cause and to freely commit to action. So what are those attributes again? Like I said, the first one is honesty. In virtually every survey, honesty is selected more often than any other leadership characteristic. No matter where the studies have been conducted, regardless of the country, geographical region, or type of organization, the most important leadership attribute since the research began in 1980 has always been honesty. Second most common attribute is forward-looking. According to the book, it is critical to have a vision about how things could be, and to be clear enough about it that others will be able to see it themselves. Forward-looking is a trait that is especially important to the millennial generation, so those people that were born between 1980 and 1996, and they're now the largest generation in the workforce at approximately 30%. And the reason that it's so important to that generation in particular is that they want to know that there's a game plan and a vision for the organization for at least as long as they plan on being a part of it. The third attribute is inspiring. People admire and respect leaders who are dynamic, uplifting, enthusiastic, positive, and optimistic. Dreaming about something is not enough. You have to be able to share that dream and get others to work with you in order to achieve it. And then the fourth attribute is competent. If people are to enlist in another's cause, they must see that individual is capable and effective. The type of competence that constituents look for does vary somewhat depending on the leader's role, but the ability to model, inspire, challenge, enable, and encourage must be demonstrated if leaders are to be seen as capable. And if your networking and your volunteering leads you to serving on a nonprofit board, there are some real differences that you need to be aware of as well. These are differences between for-profit businesses and nonprofit businesses. And not all of these apply across the board, but many of them will in a lot of situations. For instance, typically with for-profits, the mission is important, but the bottom line, meaning making money, is what matters most of all. But for nonprofits, typically the mission is most important, and oftentimes the bottom line really doesn't matter at all. Financially, they can be quite different as well. They measure success in very different ways. Again, for most businesses, it's all about the bottom line, but for a nonprofit, they often have different goals, such as trying to gain more volunteer hours, or they use to measure their success as opposed to just maximizing their profits. Mm-hmm. They're also typically funded very differently. Again, a for-profit business is funded by the cash flows from their operations compared to grants, philanthropic donations, or other sources that fund nonprofits. They're also very often have different They also very often have different timelines that they focus on financially. Oftentimes for nonprofits, they are more concerned with their long-term mission as opposed to a shorter-term financial goal for a for-profit business. And then thirdly, nonprofits are many times structured very differently than for-profit groups. They usually have a much larger governing board and many more committees. And this can provide some unique challenges in that sometimes there could be too many cooks in the kitchen, or there may not be that one individual that has final say on matters, but it can also lead to additional opportunities. Oftentimes there's a lot more involvement with the nonprofits just because of the sheer numbers of volunteers that are needed. And then lastly, the biggest difference is that with nonprofits, the hard part may not necessarily be getting the right people on the bus so much as it is getting the wrong people off the bus. And what I mean by that is, we've all heard the phrase that one bad apple can spoil the whole bunch. Well, that's especially true in leadership. One downer, one bad attitude can ruin the morale of an entire organization, and how do you deal with that? When it's a for-profit business, it's pretty easy. You can just fire them. But it's a lot more difficult to fire a volunteer, especially when so many nonprofits are in desperate need of all the volunteer help that they can get. So that's when true leadership really needs to step up and find a way to navigate the circumstance in a way that will be best for the organization going forward. And that's why it's so important with nonprofits. You got to get it right from the beginning. You've got to get the right people on the bus in the first place.
Yeah, Andy, that was a very interesting comparison between nonprofit and for-profits. And as you were talking, I was thinking, the people involved, whether they're volunteer or employee, still to make a quality contribution to either the business or the nonprofit, it still comes down to honesty, forward thinking, inspiring, and competency. But you make an excellent point with regard to in the nonprofit realm. It's a great place for a younger professional or an individual new to the workforce to hone those skills, those leadership skills, and doing so with heart and honesty as sort of your starting point. Any nonprofit will welcome that, those volunteers, even if they've got a learning curve. The challenge is getting rid of individuals or volunteers who aren't contributing in a positive way, as you said. But from the point of networking and learning and growing as an individual, and the nonprofit realm is a really great training ground to gain those skills, and they transfer over to the business. Even if a profit is ultimately your bottom line, you still need to offer a great product, good customer service, be honest, inspiring, competent. All those leadership qualities come into play in being either a quality employee for a business or owning a business.
Yeah, they really do. And the great thing about volunteering or networking and being involved is it doesn't require, you don't have to already have a degree. You don't have to have a business degree. You don't have to have already completed all of your college courses. There aren't really any requirements other than, like you said, having a willing attitude and be willing to put yourself out there and get the work done. Right. And you touched on a little bit that it's, for young people, it's a great way to build those skills. And I'd mentioned earlier that, a lot of civics groups are especially trying to engage the millennials. And you can take any organization, just about across the board. I mentioned the Elks, but it could be the Kiwanis, the Lions Club, even the Chamber of Commerce. And all of them are desperately looking for young people. They understand that if they're not able to engage the millennials and engage those young people, that they just don't have the growth prospects going forward. And one thing that I have encountered in my involvement is that a lot of those organizations rely on kind of that same core, that same group of people that have always been the ones that are, ready to take a step forward and say, yeah, I'll do it. You can count on me. And, those people are vital. Without those people, those groups, wouldn't exist today. But then those people also have to be willing to, at some point, hand the reins over. They have to be willing to say, you know what, I've done my part, and let's let someone else give it a try. And that's one thing that I found with the millennials. For instance, here in Rapid, I'm a member of the Young Professionals Group. It's a networking organization for professionals under the age of 40. And we've got a lot of different committees and ways that you can be involved. And our most popular, most active committee is the one that does volunteer work. And, you know, and a lot of millennials, they just need the opportunity. They need some, you know, if you ask, they're willing to step forward. And so that's something that I think a lot of the nonprofits just need to realize, and a lot of the civics groups need to understand that, you know, the young people, they want to be involved. They want to build those leadership skills and learn. They just need to have the opportunity to do it.
Right. I couldn't agree more. I've been involved in nonprofits for 20 plus years now, even now with the NAU Foundation. And it always comes down to, as you said, a core group of leaders getting the majority of the work done. And I have yet to be in a situation where those hardworking individuals would not welcome new participants and be willing to mentor them for the reason that you stated. You know, they're looking to the future. They not only need the hands-on now, because there's always, in a nonprofit realm, more work than people, but they're also very interested in the sustainability of the nonprofit and carrying that mission forward. So it's a really great opportunity to have some, you know, to be involved in even a mentoring relationship and learning from people who've been doing it a very long time.
Yeah. It's there's just so many fantastic opportunities out there that if people just engage themselves within their community, you know, it can benefit them in just so many ways, both professionally as well as personally.
Right.
So I've got a few other quick kind of little tips here on what not to do while networking and volunteering. You know, we've kind of talked about some of the things that you do want to do when you're getting out there and being engaged and being active in your community, but there's also some things that you don't want to do. One of those is no glad handing. I'm sure that, Tammy, you're like me. You've been to a networking event or a meeting where there's that one guy that's just walking around handing out as many business cards as he can. The first thing out of his mouth is, "What do you do?" But before you even get a chance to answer him, he's already telling you what he does. And, you know, to truly get any benefit from networking, you have to be genuine. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. You have to build relationships before people will trust you enough to want to work with you. And that's, again, whether it's on the business front or networking or volunteering, people have to trust you before they'll actually work with you. Second thing is you don't want to go to a networking event or a volunteer opportunity and try and sell something. It doesn't matter if you're trying to sell yourself or if you're trying to sell a product. And the reason being is, how many people are there to buy? You know, if you're at a networking event, if you're at a church meeting, you know, nobody is there to buy anything. So don't sell. No one likes a salesperson, so don't be one. And thirdly, this should go without saying, but unfortunately it does need to be said, don't drink too much. Most networking events and many volunteer meetings are held where alcohol is served. It helps to loosen people up, and it gives you something to hold on to while you're standing there. But, you know, you don't ever want to be that person that overindulges and ruins your opportunity. So, you know, those are just a few things that you don't want to do, some mistakes to avoid. A lot of times people go to a networking event, or the first time that they go to a civic organization's meeting, they're nervous. You know, they don't know how to act. And, you know, it's just one of those things that everyone's been there before. And so have confidence and try and have fun. And then finally, you have to find the right balance between working and volunteering. Obviously, volunteering is very rewarding and it's a great way to network, but it's tough to make a living being a professional volunteer. You need to find the right level of commitment where you're actively involved, but you still have enough time to get your needed work done. In order to achieve this, you simply have to be honest with yourself. You have to be aware of what you can and cannot do, and you have to make sure that you don't overextend yourself. Personally, I find the way to balance is to find things that have a return for yourself, both personally as well as professionally. Organizations that are affiliated with your work or that give you networking opportunities with the market segment that you want to work in are one very good example. And finding that sweet spot can help with maintaining a good work-life balance, which is something that I think a lot of people struggle with, and can help you find that balance, and one where you're both successful and fulfilled, which is ultimately a win-win for everyone, and why you want to be active and engaged within your community. So, Tammy, that's really what I have today. I just wanted to see if you had any other thoughts or questions on any of it.
No, I just wanted to the point you just made and a point you made earlier, I did want to circle back to a suggestion I hadn't heard before, but I think is especially helpful, and it goes to the point of finding leadership opportunities and volunteer opportunities that help your business. And that's volunteering for professional organizations that are not your profession. I really found that to be an interesting suggestion and can see the wisdom in it. I mean, it just allows you that sort of business to business networking just makes good sense. I mean, we're all in any business, you're hiring vendors to do work, and other businesses are hiring other professionals and vendors to do work. So to the degree you can become a trusted individual in those circles makes really great sense.
Yeah, and one of the great things about it is it's really kind of a unique concept.
Yeah.
It's one that not a lot of people utilize. And if you go to a lot of networking events, you run across a lot of the same people. I mean, like I said, I'm a financial advisor. And you go to any networking event, there's going to be people there that are in finance and insurance, mortgage lenders, real estate agents, the list goes on. And sometimes you have to do something unique. You got to do something that's kind of you think outside the box, and it's a way to network where you're probably going to be the only one there. If I go to a human resource management monthly meeting,
right,
I'm pretty sure I'll be the only financial advisor there. And so it's a great way to really spotlight yourself and the business that you represent.
Yeah, I think it's a great suggestion, and it gets you out of your comfort zone for sure. And that's, as you said, the most dangerous place a professional can be.
Yeah, that's for sure. And to me, I think it's very important to stretch yourself. Make yourself uncomfortable sometimes, because that's really the only way that you can grow. If I sit in my office and I don't, get out and get myself involved, I'm not meeting new people. I'm not learning new things. And if you're not, as a professional, or even as a student, if it was one of your guys' college students, if you're not being out there and engaging and learning something new, you're not really even treading water. You're taking a step backwards, because your competition, everyone else, they are doing those things. Yeah.
Yeah, excellent advice and a great presentation, Andy. I don't have any further questions. So do you have anything further to share? Any final points?
Well, I just want to thank you for the opportunity. I really enjoyed trying to share that information. I think it's so important that people network. Everyone understands the importance of that in business, but there are so many great nonprofit and civics organizations out there that need volunteers as well. And, you know, the fact is a person only has so many hours in the day. And so if you can find a way to really do both, to network as well as give back to your community, it can be so impactful in your life and in your career. You know, I'm very passionate about it. I'm passionate about networking as well as volunteering. And to me, if you can find a way to do both at the same time, it's just a win-win for everyone. So I thank you for the opportunity today. My contact information is listed on the screen. If anyone has any questions or any feedback for me, I would appreciate them contacting me.
Thanks so much, Andy. It was a great presentation filled with really excellent advice. I appreciate that you helped us with this webinar today.
Well, thank you again for the opportunity.
Thanks, Andy.